Have you ever been on a track, Meg?
I haven't, and it is one of the most terrifying things I can think of.
It's bloody frightening. It's frightening.
The faster you go, the safer you are. It's that simple.
Exactly.
Because of whatever that effect's called.
Centrifugal
force, exactly.
It's on the tip of my tongue.
Hello, welcome to episode 8 of Off the Back from Cycling Weekly. I'm Adam, Cycling Weekly's news editor, and with me today are Meg.
Hello.
And Aaron.
Hi Adam, hi Meg. Hello to our listeners. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to do last week's because I had a wisdom tooth extracted, but feeling a lot better today, so let's see how it goes.
That's good. Any day where you don't have a wisdom tooth extracted is probably a good day, right? Please remember to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and visit cyclingweekly.com. Even better, if you're in the UK, subscribe to Cycling Weekly, the magazine, or go to your local shop and buy a copy. It will be great. I promise. That's my promise. It will be great. We'll start as always with kind of high level news. Aaron, do you want to kick off by talking to us about the latest in Shimano cranksets?
Yeah, so the Shimano crank story. I mean, this is nothing new. I think you reported on this, Adam, back in 2023, but now the public settlement has finally been issued, and it's pretty interesting. So for those that don't know, Shimano recalled about 760,000 Holotech 2 cranksets in September 2023, reporting more than 4,500 incidents of the product separating. Some people got some nasty injuries like fractures and bone breaks, etc. This is according to the US Consumer Product Safety Commission. So Shimano offered a free inspection and replacement program to any affected customers and later set aside 7.6 billion yen or 90 million pounds to cover the costs. And this included cranksets from 2012 to 2019. And the crankset families were Ultegra 6800 and 8000. And Dura-Ace 9000 and 9100, and those were both mechanical and electronic grip sets of the 11-speed configuration family.
So basically, it was a big deal, and it wasn't just America; it was all over the world, and people all over the world. Most people didn't actually have a crankset that was gonna break. But everyone had to be checked, essentially. It was mostly Ultegra and Dura-Ace, wasn't it?
Yeah. So this is quite a big deal. It was a global phenomenon. Didn't affect me, none of my parts, but so some of my friends actually had the delamination issue.
Did you get it tested though?
No, I didn't. I don't think I'm making enough power to even separate those cranks or cause any issues. But the recall was later, as we just mentioned, extended globally with about 2.8 million cranksets reported to be affected. The big news, though, or the news that we uncovered this week, is that the CPSC claimed that Shimano knowingly failed to immediately report the issue and the hazards that the crankset imposed, or that it created an unreasonable risk of serious injury or death to the consumers. The $11.5 million settlement is said to now be resolved. And according to previous results on Bicycle Retailer, the proposed settlement calls for Shimano to provide free replacements for all the faulty cranksets, offer a 2-year extra warranty period, and for those affected by the recall, the 14 plaintiffs will also get a bonus $500 as a service award for what that's worth. But yeah, that's the news in the crankset world at the moment. And yeah, hopefully that has all been sorted out. I haven't heard of any issues pertaining to the current generation. So should be a thing of the past now.
We are seeing a lot of recalls are big news, aren't they? It's kind of we've covered them incessantly over the last kind of 6 months. I don't think that's a reflection on bikes breaking more. It's just kind of a case of people spotting things and then blowing up into a big story, I think, right?
Yeah, but I mean, it just makes you think. We are getting sold apparently complete perfectly tested products, and we take that on face value, and then you spend your hard-earned cash on it, only to find out later you're riding with equipment that wasn't tested properly. We've seen it time and time again. And it's not just cranksets; it's on frame sets, it's on cycling computers. I had a computer recently. I'm not going to name any names, but it crashed and got bricked, meaning that I couldn't unlock it, and I had to be sent a new computer to test because I was sent unknowingly a pre-production model that shouldn't have been sent out to journalists and consumers. So there might be some other people there riding this particular computer wondering why the hell it won't switch on and why it's freezing. So yeah.
If we move on to another story that's been big on our site at the moment, Meg, talk to us about bike theft.
Well, last Friday, a British domestic cycling team, Jack Rue Handling Racing, gosh,
it's a bit of a mouthful,
had a bike stolen in South London. Broad daylight. There's a video that showed these two thieves, one on a moped, the other pulling one of the bikes off this roof rack, and then the two of them speeding away on this moped. But apparently before this video was taken, the team manager confronted one of the thieves and was threatened at knife point. And the other bike that was remaining on the top of the roof rack is badly damaged. The frame's got massive damage to it. In parts, it's completely broken. And both of those bikes were worth upwards of £5,000. So a huge blow to the team.
Have you ever had your bike stolen?
I have had my bike stolen. It's a pretty epic story of I was up in Leeds, and it was just a hardtail. It cost me £50, but it was huge sentimental value. Got stolen day before I had a breakup as well, so it's a pretty double whammy, emotionally turbulent time for me. And then I found it on Facebook Marketplace and got it back. So it's a pretty wild story. I feel very lucky because it's the Wild West out there when it comes to getting your bike back, isn't it?
Yeah, that's wild. That's wild. Have I ever had a bike stolen? I've had things stolen off my bike.
Really?
But I've never actually had a saddlebag, a bottle. Like, it's always the really annoying things, but I've never actually had a bike stolen. I mean, I know friends that have had endless bikes stolen. Aaron, have you?
I've had a car stolen, and I thought I left any bike stealing issues back in South Africa because it's quite a common occurrence there. Yeah. Not just being mugged at gunpoint for your bicycle, but what was happening at one point at all the cycling events is that the thieves were dressing up as cyclists. And after the event, when everyone was putting their bikes on their bike racks, they would just go to the bike racks, taking the bike off, and then just riding it away. And they were dressed as cyclists with helmets on, and everyone thought, oh, they just got their own bike. So that was pretty much what was going on there. In the UK, I've never had any issues yet, but it's been brought to my attention, over and over. I think Windsor at Cinnabon Cafe, there was some footage that was going around a week or two ago.
Of that woman having her bike stolen again at knife point, wasn't it?
Yeah. So it's just one of those things. I mean, it's an easy access item to steal, and you're obviously not going to be selling it for anything near what we paid our bikes for. And for the most part, you'll probably see it surfacing on Facebook Marketplace. But I think some of these bikes have been shipped into Eastern Europe and been stripped for parts. So you're never going to see those. You're never going to see those bikes again. But it's something I wouldn't want to experience. No, I've experienced my fair share of crime, to put it that way. But hopefully, don't have anything like that coming my way anytime soon. But that
sounds very ominous. Hopefully on the right side of that crime.
Yeah, it's on the right side of the crime, but it's as an African, it's something we had to face on a daily basis. But it just shows you that there's no place immune to this across the globe, and it's just something that I think needs to be curbed very quickly, or it's going to become an epidemic.
Yeah, it does feel like the kind of thing that you hear pop up in I mean, it's normally London more often than not, and it's just kind of, it's the sheer weight of people and just the opportunism. Like, you know, once people work out how much some bikes cost, I mean, you know, people are shocked every time I tell them how much my bike costs, and my bike costs only like a couple of grand. So like, once, if someone's on a 5, 6, 7, maybe more £1,000 bike, and you've got kind of criminals that know that, then you're kind of quite a soft target, especially when you're in cleats. Moving on from that, just to kind of give our listeners a brief update on racing in the past week. I'm sure you haven't been living under a complete rock, but Jonas Vingegaard won Paris-Nice in quite a dominant fashion. He won by over 4 minutes, which is the biggest margin since the Second World War. I did a lot of clicking through old results earlier to work that one out. And Isaac Del Toro won Tirreno Adriatico, both of which were kind of statement wins, I'd say. I don't know if either of you two got the chance to catch either of those.
Yeah, I watched both races. Something that stuck with me was the fashion faux pas of Jonas.
But we'll come to that later.
Okay. But yes, I watched both races. Adriatico was on first, and then it would kind of slide into Paris-Nice. And it was just, I really battled with having both races on at the same time, trying to focus on which one was which.
It's mad. It's mad. It's, you know, it's every year it's the same thing. Every year it's like, why are the two of the most prestigious stage races on at the same time? It never makes sense. And yet, I think they were going to change it, but it doesn't change. It's mad. It's madness. And not just from a kind of a work perspective, because we are quite busy that week as a result. Meg, this is probably your first year flipping between the two. How did you find it?
Well, I was actually just intermittently watching the Tirreno for work. And it was kind of the first race that I've watched all year. And I forget the adrenaline towards the end. I mean, I think part of it is also knowing that I'm going to be writing a race report in 5 minutes. But it's just, I love I forget like how thrilling it is, especially in those last kilometers.
But you're a cycling expert, Meg. You shouldn't be saying that the first bike race you've watched this year is Tirreno Adriatico when we've had so much already. But no, there's more to come.
We'll skirt over that.
I should also say that Caroline Swinkles won Trofeo Alfredo Binder, which was her first ever World Tour win, which is a pretty big deal at a race as kind of historic as that. But the biggest deal is Milan-San Remo this weekend, but we might get onto that in a bit. Let's talk about the biggest performing stories in the past week. Aaron, you didn't write this one, it was our colleague Andy, but the biggest performing story was all about kind of how bikes might not be getting more expensive and how China relates to that. Can you just talk us through it?
Yeah, I mean, firstly, bikes are getting expensive, but I will get into that now. I think Chinese brands and components have in the past received quite a bad rap. But most of the frames we ride in the past that we are used are manufactured in Asia anyway. I personally don't have an issue riding Chinese frames or Chinese parts, and hopefully we'll be having a go on that new XDS X Labs or even an Elv soon, just to compare them to the mainstream offerings that we so often find ourselves testing. So the big talking point here is the price in bikes and the seemingly endless markups on high-end goods. I think back in 2019 when I first moved in the UK, I got a Cannondale Super 6 Evo Dura Ace long-term test bike, and that retailed for 10k. You know, and now we fast forward 6 years, that same bike would be the equivalent of 13,500. I mean, that's a considerable hike in price, and we're seeing prices in excess of 13.5, inching up into 14, sometimes even 15, depending on the brand and the marketing fluff that usually surrounds the hype of the launch of the bike. Of course, there are some outlier brands on the periphery, brands that are just as good as the perennial favorites, but don't go on at the same level of lust, if we can call it that. So brands such as Cube and Merida, both really good. Both have been in the World Tour in the past. And for instance, you'll be able to pick up a top level value proposition for thousands less than the equivalent Specialized, Trek Giant, or Cannondale. So a bike such as the Cube Lightning C68 in range topping guys, fully outfitted with SRAM Red Axis, that will cost around 7,500, which is basically half price.
Yeah.
Half of what you get on a S-Works SLA tarmac. And the new Merida Reactor, which I recently tested, sampled in Spain, entry-level model with 105 mechanical, is £2,400. You know, so that
it's still more expensive than it was 5 years ago, but it's not. You can get kind of more relatively affordable things. That's what I was talking about in the podcast last week with the new Bianchi Infinito. Is you can get a mechanical 105 one for under £3,000, which does contrast with the Cannondale CAD 14, which even in 105 is kind of edging towards £3,000, and that's obviously aluminium. Still a great bike, but it's intriguing how much kind of brand name has to do with these things sometimes. And also I think brands are starting to realize that they are going to have to maybe lower their prices a little bit with that threat from China.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if we look at the Dura Ace Di2 equivalent in the X Labs 89, that's around £7,000. So it's kind of, I'd say the top end Cube bikes are kind of thereabout with X Labs. And having recently attended opening weekend and seen those bikes in the flesh, they are really good looking. I'm so excited to get a leg over one of those. I don't segregate or marginalize any brands. I'm open to testing anything, but those look top notch. If we look at Andy's piece, he talks about like the inflation and that relative to prices 10 or 12 years ago, some bikes are on par, if not cheaper, now than back then. But because of inflation, if we fail to take into account annual salary increases with inflation, and this actually makes bikes a lot more out of reach than they originally were.
Yeah.
Because these aren't, our increases aren't accounting for that, and this isn't just a UK centric issue, it's global. And if we take a moment to think about my friends back home in South Africa, who pay small fortunes for bicycles, this is from the entry level all the way up to the top. And this is owing to the same levels of inflation, but also the added penalty of a really, really poor exchange rate. I think the rand to the pound is like 22 or 23. So it's ridiculous. And then you add in the excessive import duties and tariffs, and you're probably spending around £1,500 to £2,000 more than you would for the equivalent bike. So
Sure.
It's something to consider, but I think we're going to see more and more affordable brands come to the fore, and it might not particularly be something from China. It can be any country coming out of Eastern Europe or anywhere in Asia. So I think we're in for
or just one of those established brands kind of realizing that that's where the market is, because they can't just kind of push higher and higher, because that's an ever kind of dwindling base of customers, right?
Yeah, agreed.
Sorry, Meg, I just realized that you haven't said a word about bike prices. How much would you be willing to pay for a bike?
The most I've ever paid for a bike is £750. And I saved up for a long time for that. But hopefully I'll be sampling some nice gravel bikes for that ride I'm going to do, the North London Dirt. So that might be my one and only chance to ride a high caliber bike, because my threshold for spending money on bikes is relatively low, I'd say.
the only in the UK, the only way that a lot of people could afford any kind of bike over well, over that 750 pounds really is through Cycle to Work. So, this isn't about Cycle to Work, but just a reminder about how much of a lifeline that is for lots of people. That's how I bought my bike. If I didn't have that, then it would have been a nightmare. Moving on though, another big story from the week was all about track cycling.
Yes.
We don't have our regular track cycling enthusiast Tom to tell us about it, but Meg, try and talk us through the new Derny hour world record.
Yeah, so a British rider, Jessica Disley, has just broken the women's UCI Derny hour record on Friday with a distance of over 60 kilometres. I did not know what Derny was before I read
That was
this.
going to be my next. That was going to be my next question. Yeah, before the story came out. Yeah.
And it kind of looks amazing, doesn't it? It's like a motorized bicycle that sits just in front of the cyclist.
It's not motorized. It is motorized, but it's not a bicycle. It's like it's a moped basically. Like the rider of the Derny is just riding a moped around the track.
Yeah. So she did it in the Geraint Thomas National Velodrome in Newport, and she beat the existing record by 8 kilometers, and she lapped that track over 240 times, which is amazing. And in an interview afterwards, she was saying that rather than like a power, it's not as much about getting like your power outage up. It's about like the psychological kind of task of staying that very specific number of centimeters just behind the Derny that you can maintain in that kind of happy place without dropping from behind the Derny and without getting caught up in too far close, which is so fascinating. Have either of you tried a Derny? Not tried a Derny, sorry.
No, I have. I've never been anywhere. I've never been anywhere near a Derny. I mean, most of the time, here's a learning opportunity for you, Meg. Most of the time, you see them in keirin racing. So it's what they use to get up to speed in keirin races. So you'll see that at the Olympics. It's the one that everyone's just like, oh, why is there a moped on the track in cycling? It's because it's for the keirin. So they kind of get up to speed and then they go and they race from like that. But people do use it for training as well. But considering I am neither a track rider nor someone wanting to train to be a track rider, no, I've never been anywhere near one. Aaron, I can't.
I've never been near one. Track cycling, I think, is the only discipline I've never attempted. I have been on a velodrome, but I haven't actually done a track race. And I was for 2 years. I went to the London leg of the UCI Track Champions League.
Yeah.
And they had that there. And it was pretty entertaining. The guy riding the Derny was having a blast, and he thought he was like an absolute cowboy on that thing.
My kind of takeaway is that just like the breathing in the fumes is horrible. Like the electric ones do exist, but I don't think this was an electric one. But just like I mean, forget anything else. Like that must be pretty grim. And when you're doing, I mean, again, not that I've ever tried, but I imagine doing an hour record. You're just like you're doing your own thing. You don't need to think about anything else. You're just in the flow state, right? The track's not going anywhere. There's not going to be a pothole. You don't even need to think. You don't even need to turn. You just cycle for an hour. But if you've got to think about the moped that's sat kind of 3 centimeters in front of you, then that's a whole other ball game.
Yeah.
Did it inspire you? Do you fancy it?
You know what? I would love to go on a Derny. Forget breathing in the fumes behind. I want to be on a Derny.
Have you ever been on a track, Meg?
I haven't, and it is one of the most terrifying things I can think of.
It's bloody frightening. It's frightening
because of the steepness.
The banking. My word!
And the skid, the potential to take skin off. Am I just inventing things here? But that's really where my brain goes.
Well, the faster you go, the safer you are. It's that simple.
Exactly.
Because of whatever that effect's called,
Yeah, what is that called?
Centrifugal
force, exactly.
It's on the tip of my tongue.
The faster you go, the higher you can go. The faster you can go, the easier it is. But also, I mean, I know I love it. I've only been on the track like 3 times, but the kind of like the feeling of speed you can get is almost like, because it's a bit like, have you ever ridden a fixie?
No.
Oh, but there you go. Because you're on fixie, so like you and the machine are one. Like there's nothing complicating it. You know, it's not like, oh, I change a gear to go a bit faster. It's just like you push the pedals, you go faster. That's it. So I mean, give it a go. Go to Herne Hill. You went to Herne Hill for a thing, but you should go to Herne Hill and have a ride around it.
Do the thing, yeah.
Do the thing, yeah. Because it's not that steep at Herne Hill. In fact, it's like really not steep at all. It's like quite gentle.
No, you've actually sold it to me, so thank you.
And you can pretend that you were taking part in the 1948 Olympics, because that is where the track events were held. There you go. Fun little Herne Hill fact.
Perfect.
The final biggest performing story of the last week on our site was a column by our regular columnist in the magazine. Reminder to go and buy the magazine, Dr. Hutch, all about how kind of batteries on scooters and bikes are changing how people see other users on the road, basically. So like, you know, you see them around like delivery drivers with e-bikes, and people think cyclists, but they're not really cyclists. They're just on, you know, motorbikes with batteries, or like e-scooters as well on pavements and stuff like that, and kind of changing how people perceive like the order of vulnerability of road users. You know, like as cyclists, you know, I'm pretty sure that we rarely go on pavements or anything like that. Or, but if you're someone hopping on a hireable scooter, you can kind of go where you want. I don't know if anything like that happens where you are, Aaron, but I'm sure you see it all the time in London, Meg. Just like people on pavements, just kind of going everywhere.
Yeah. And
Giving cyclists a bad name.
Definitely, and I've been a bad cyclist on a Lime scooter before, and it's the reason I don't want to go on there. Not scooter, sorry, the Lime bike. You know, I feel like you don't. It's funny, isn't it, with this identity of a cyclist? What does it mean? Do I even identify as a cyclist? I mean, I'm sure I do, but it's not like a title I like really consciously attribute to myself. Whereas when I'm up against a Lime biker, I am a cyclist, and there's some other category I don't quite understand. But yeah, like you say, give a bad rep to other cyclists. It's interesting because it's like, it's a really good thing that they exist, and it exists to the extent that it does in London. Like so many people are out cycling and not driving, not on public transport, but out in the open air. But yeah, on the other hand, it does feel frightening, and there are rules of behaviour that just you wouldn't do as a cyclist.
Yeah. That there seems to be kind of a different level. Like people, like I know people that would never kind of drunk cycle, but you know, for whatever reason, they feel able to drunk scoot, and that's just a nightmare. There was a question there, Aaron. Like, is there anything like that near you?
No, I haven't had many encounters with any kind of electric bikes or Lime bikes where I am in Surrey, but when I do occasionally ride into London, I do experience it, and there's almost like a kamikaze style mentality to these guys and girls who operate these machines, because there's no communication that they're coming from behind. You can't hear them either. You know, if you happen to veer to the left or right, you know, you just see something in your periphery, and you know it's going to kind of take you out. So yeah, and also it's just the etiquette of how these bikes are stored. I think there's a disrespect because they're just strewn across streets and toppled over. I don't know if that's just sort of youngsters going around just seeing if they can do some kind of domino effect on the bikes, but they just look like they're just poorly treated too.
Yeah. I've also noticed just absolute Lime bike detritus in the roads as well. It's like seats. I mean, how can you notice a seat fall off and still carry on riding? Beats me. And yeah, baskets, just like random bits that just end up in the road as well. They're dangerous for other road users, but yeah.
I in Bristol, the rules are quite strict on where you can park them. So there's less of like the kind of fields of them. Like, you know, when a parking place is full, it's full, and you've got to go and find somewhere else. But you definitely have just I think it's, you know, and sounds very snobby from like a cyclist, but it's people that don't normally interact with, you know, don't normally ride a bike, or you know, it's not something they do all the time, so they do it occasionally, and then they don't really know how to, you're right, Aaron, you don't really know how to interact with other people on the road. And obviously that's a lot more deadly or dangerous when that's vehicles or drivers, I should say. But when it's kind of pedestrians or other cyclists, it's just kind of like you've almost got to like second guess where they're going to go. It's I treat like a being near someone on an e-bike, like a hireable e-bike, I should say, not like a e-bike someone owns themselves, but a hireable e-bike or scooter, as like warily as I would do a car, because I'm like, well, I don't know where they're going to go. Like they could move out at any second. But the other thing is, sorry, go on.
I just think it's also that understanding of sort of spatial perception and speed.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the people who could potentially be riding these bikes are not familiar with the speeds that they get up to, and also the speeds that some bicycles and other normal pedal power bicycles and other road users get up to.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you'll often find older people taking gaps that they shouldn't because they don't realize how fast a bicycle, is traveling. But that issue I've only seen in London when I occasionally commute to Bath, or when I was working at Cycling News and I had to go into Bath.
Yeah.
I'd often come in via Brassknocker Hill and then drop down past the university into Bath, and you'd see the university students coming up on those scooters, those electric scooters.
Yeah.
And they seem pretty civilized with the way they were operating them and the way they were stored and everything. So I think it's
just a London thing.
It might be a London thing. I don't know.
The scooters are a lot slower, it should be said. Like they're like, I think maybe they're like 15, 16 kilometers an hour max, whereas obviously the bikes can go up to 25 kilometers an hour. So that there is a big difference there. But you're right. I think it's also, if you're operating a bike under your own steam, you know how fast you're going because like you can feel it, right? Whereas if you're just on like on an e-bike, then especially when it's not when it's just pedal assist, it's just all of a sudden you're gone. So yeah, but the other thing before I end this rant is it's the delivery riders who, I'm sure are under pressure to like deliver so many orders and stuff, but you see like batteries, gaffer tapes their bikes, and those are the things that cause fires as well as like cause danger because they're basically on e-motorbikes, not really cycling. You see them just like the pedals are just there. It's quite like, it's like, why even still have the pedals on at all? Like but I guess they've got to pretend sometimes to the police that they are on a normal bike. Moving on to the next section, which is kind of reader debate. So like the thing that people were talking the most about in the past week, Aaron, you already mentioned this earlier, so I'll come to you first, but it would be no surprise that people lost their minds last week over what Jonas Vingegaard was wearing on stage 4, I think, of Paris-Nice. It was so cold that he was wearing bib tights, a base layer, a jersey, a second pair of bib tights over the first pair with the chamois pad cut out, a jacket back to front, and then a rain jacket on top of that. So he was like so cocooned. And the plan was for him to take this off at some point in the day, but it was so stressful and so wet that he just didn't. And therefore you had this hilarious image of a man kind of like in the oddest clothing possible. Aaron, take it away.
Yeah, I noticed that immediately, and I was like, what on earth is this chap wearing? I was like, it really, to me, like at first glance, it looked like he was wearing his bib tights over his jersey, which he essentially was.
Yeah.
But the more I thought about it, the more cool. I thought this guy's pretty cool. He doesn't care what people think.
Yeah.
We've come to accept that we need to look a particular way on the bike. We need to mimic or try to copy what some of these high-end pros are wearing. We want to have a certain look and feel. But Jonas is eschewing exactly that.
Yeah.
Is doing what he wants to do. It isn't impacting his performance. And I think he's doing it. He's doing it for the people. I mean, I'm not saying I would go and wear bib tights over my jersey, but I have done some. I've made my own fair share of cycling fashion faux pas in the past, trying to stay as warm as I can on the bike because I've never experienced cold like this in my life before. But I think I thought it was good to see that. It brought about a lot of debate. and a lot of talk at the dinner table. And yeah, I like Jonas, and I like what he does.
Yeah, it's that kind of not really caring that I think is inspiring. Meg?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that was real to me in the discourse was the Voluminati code, which I had never heard of before. Are you two familiar with this?
Yeah, but it's kind of like, it's very much like boring old man cyclist fare.
Yeah, I still found it quite funny though, because there was this one post and it was like, he's broken rule number 34 of this code, and then it was kind of like suddenly like lost in this sea of rules of behavior. But yeah, I personally, I don't really, yeah, it was interesting to see someone looking so different in that context. And like you say, like, yeah, total respect for it. You got to do what you got to do. He's absolutely smashing it. So
it looked really cold. Like, you know, things change when extreme weather comes into play. But
it looked cold. It looked ugly, but it worked for him. And
yeah, exactly.
The worst thing for me is being cold on the bike. More often than not, that happens like after you've been riding for like 30, 40 minutes and you have to stop, fix a puncture or do something, and then you start freezing to death.
Yeah.
So I will always go out slightly more overdressed and just deal with what comes, then pull over and try and cry myself to sleep, or cry myself until my wife comes to pick me up, because I've never experienced cold that causes physical pain before. At moving to the UK and not knowing what actual winter gear was, that was a big wake-up call for me. And learning that you have to layer in a certain way and use gloves that have a certain amount of space within them to warm up the air to keep you warm. I didn't know any of that stuff, so I was just suffering by myself, trying to do, I was making Jonas clothing hacks before he made it cool. So.
Well, the good news is I think it's supposed to be like 18 degrees tomorrow, so we won't have to think about those freezing days on the bike. Well, actually, inevitably, we'll have like another cold week in the UK. But things are getting better.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure they are. Exactly. My favourite thing about it was that part of the plan was that his teammates were going to pull the bib tights off him. I want to see that happen. Like like some kind of like Thunderbirds thing. Like like what the hell? Like
there's been a bit of theatre to the whole.
But boy, also that could easily result in like a crash or something, right?
Yeah.
But
we could always see how it might work at the Cycling Weekly All Hands next week.
Yes, I will ruin a pair of bib tights in order that we can try and replicate the Visma Lease bike plan even. But yeah, I mean, yeah, no, I really enjoyed it, and it just made me think. Cycling is so snobby. Like there are so many things, like Meg, as kind of a relative newcomer to the world, just like none of this would even occur to you, I'm sure, and then everyone's like losing their minds over it. It always really annoys me, because you're just in like you're in like Lycra riding a bike. Like it's not that complicated, but people do try to make it complicated, that's for sure. It's actually why a lot of the time I prefer the world of running, because you just need it. Like I've just been for a run, which is why I'm just like this, but you just need like a pair of shorts and some trainers and a t-shirt, and you can go for a run. There's no one's looking at you thinking, oh, that guy's dressed in the wrong stuff. Whereas on the bike, for whatever reason, people are like, oh, his kit isn't matching, or he's got like black socks on, or that kind of thing.
Well, to out the Cycling Weekly team, when we went for our group ride a few months ago, I just had like a baggy jumper on and then some shorts and then just my trainers I was wearing before, and then came out, everyone perfect outfits, full change of clothes. Simon, our editor, is that what he is?
Yeah.
I had a mind blank. He was like, oh God, Meg, do you not have any cycling kit? Like, it was so nice of him. But I was like, I mean, I just want to go for a casual social ride. Obviously, I had not been for a casual road ride really before, because you really put me through my paces in a very great way. But yeah, that was funny, even just from low-key point of view, just to be like, his face was like, oh, poor you.
But there are levels to it, right? If you'd have come out in some kit that like someone might have thought was like a bit like was the right kit, but was kind of like the wrong brand, I don't think anyone would have said anything. But like your world changes when you actually have a pair of bib shorts that fit, or like that there's a reason why you wear that stuff. It's not like because we love to wear lycra, although I'm sure some people do, but it's kind of just like it is the appropriate kit for the activity.
I think it's part of the cycling metamorphosis. I think we all start somewhere, and then you get to a certain point. I mean, if I take out photos, and the first time I rode a bike in 2013, I would have been drawn and courted by Simon. If I pitched up at the office looking like that. But,
Simon was so nice about it, by the way. Just
But you kind of change and morph as you go based on what you like and what's comfortable and what you see other people wear. You don't really think about it when you first ride. You think, okay, put clothing on, some shorts that feel comfortable, shoes. I mean, I didn't even know what cleats were at the time. So it's just one of those things.
It's just, I mean, that is something that we all just have to remember as cycling journalists, right? Is that there's so much assumed knowledge in this sport, like from tech stuff to clothing to kit to racing. Like there's so much just that, which is why I love watching cycling with someone that doesn't know as much as me, because they look at it and they think that's really silly, or like why is that happening, and then you explain it and you think, that is quite unique to cycling. On to our final section, which is heroes or villains, or both. Do any of you have some ready, or one ready?
Yes, I have a villain, and I'm kind of identifying with you in a way, Adam, with the whole pothole thing, because ever since...
Oh, sorry.
The 1st of January.
Sorry to interrupt your flow. For listeners that are joining us new, I have a vendetta against potholes. Aaron, please continue.
I've also got a vendetta against potholes and also wet roads, because every time it rains in this country, the roads disappear. The roads just become craters. The lunar surface is everywhere once the roads dry out. And I live on the top of a hill, and there's this nasty little lane I need to climb up or ride down at the start of every ride. In summer, it's beautiful and dry, and I'm okay with that. But in winter, when I start my ride, I get to the bottom of this descent, which is probably 400 meters, and I'm covered in crap. Crud, horse manure, all sorts of things. I look like I've done a mountain bike race, and now I can't tell where the potholes are. And the other day I went straight into one. Thankfully I didn't puncture. I carried on, did my ride anyway, because I didn't want to climb up that bloody hill again. But the roads are in absolutely shocking condition. I've never experienced anything like this before in my life. Don't know who to report it to. I don't know if other people are reporting it, and that's why I haven't reported it yet. But these holes need to be fixed, and someone in the village has been as nice enough as to use old bricks and manually try and fill these holes, just so we don't go over the bars or disappear into them. But I don't know what the rainwater in this country does, that it eats away the roads like that.
It's some kind of weird combination of the amount of rain we get, for some reason the stuff we use to make our roads, and just the sheer amount of traffic. I mean, that's the big thing, is like cars are so big and traffic is so high that just the roads don't get a chance to recover before they get pounded again. In answer to your question, who to report it to, stay alert, and there'll be a whole feature in Cycling Weekly about it in about a month's time. But I imagine your answer is sorry, County Council. But I should say, if our listeners are intrigued by this, don't think, someone else would have reported it. Go and report it, because the worst that's going to happen is that report's doubled up, and someone might do something about it quicker. So yeah. But yes, no, I feel your pothole pain. Meg, do you have a hero or a villain?
I also have a villain.
Oh,
And
no.
this is a very pathetic one, but the villain is training as an experience, because I have got a big ride coming up, 70 miles, and I just find making the time for a big ride, I find it really difficult to find the time, basically. So I'm just lumping all of training into one big villain. And and also finding the time to make a training plan. But this is basically just my brain, just a little insight into my brain. I've got this thing to do. I'm probably not going to do any training until the week of. I'll survive, right?
Yeah. Anyway, we should wrap it up there. Thank you very much for joining me, Meg and Aaron. Remember to subscribe to this, to like it, to check out our YouTube channel if you're listening to this. And also to visit cyclingweekly.com and buy a magazine. I cannot stress that enough. Buy a magazine. It's pretty good, if I do say so myself. Hope you all have a good week, and see you later, Meg and Aaron.
Bye.
Cheers.